must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Good morning, viewers. Thank you very much. Welcome to the editor's memo. This is a memo that will be broadcast live from Europe, where I am based at the moment. Good morning, all of you across Africa, in the continents neighboring Africa, Europe, America, South America, and all of those in Asia, in Australia, watching us, Russia, China. Good morning. Good morning, all our viewers in Nigeria, in South Africa, in Uganda, in Kenya, in Malawi, in Zimbabwe, in Egypt, Cairo, Johannesburg, South Africa. Thank you very much for watching us. This is Punchline Africa Television. And a good morning across to Cameroon. The struggle of Cameroon seems to be coming to a conclusive end for two states to form themselves. But good morning, Asmara. In Mogadishu, still a struggle goes on. That is Miriam's handiwork that you will be doing at 3 p.m. But I'm doing a short. First, good morning back in Britain, those watching us. In Britain, the situation is even murkier. Uber are on strike. No more petrol coming through the pipes. No more petrol stations, more closed. It's chaotic. You have seen the Uganda situation of those days during Idi Amin, how cars could queue for miles and miles and miles and miles. And probably in Kenya, you must have seen longer queues when there is no fuel. The only discipline that we have here, Miriam, is that people don't rush to overlap. If you are number 9,000, you remain in that number 9,000 until you reach the petrol pump. Seriously, the panel, this is very chaotic here. And I never expected it to happen in a first world. And I am shocked that the British Prime Minister has not addressed it. Today they are bringing in the army that have been sent to collect the fuel from the sea. About 100 miles away on this end where I am seated, near Kent, near where it comes from. These are some of the effects of the collapse of the European Union. When Britain exited from European Union, Miriam, we talked about this, that there will be consequences. And the first consequence is this one, the fuel crisis. It is really very bad that most of the drivers we didn't know were coming from Central Europe, and they have been told to go back home. They are no longer coming here to renew their visas. So we have a shortage of 100,000 drivers. So that is the situation. Thank you very much. News from London, United Kingdom. Back to you, Miriam, to introduce your panel.
All right, Doc, thank you so much for that introduction. So on the panel this morning, we have Samuel Tawish from Nairobi. Samuel Tawish, good morning. As we wait for...
Very good morning to you, Miriam Mugutu, at our headquarters in Nairobi. Good morning to Dr. Masanga, live from London. Good morning to my colleague panelist, of course, Sean Wesonga and Sharon Gitonga, and everyone else who's watching the program in Africa and the rest of the world. My pleasure to join you on this program. Good morning, Miriam.
Very well. good morning. And we also do have Daniel Wesonga. Daniel, good morning.
Yes, I'm Obutu at our headquarters. Good morning to my brother, Ole Senator Wish. Good morning to Daktari in the UK and Sharon Gitonga. Our viewers here in Kenya, Africa, and the rest of the world. Good morning.
Very well, thank you. And also, last but not least, Sharon Gitonga, who is joining us from Nairobi. Sharon, a very good morning to you.
A very good morning to you, Miriam, back in the studio. Dr. Matsanga, my co-panelist, Tawish, Daniel Wesonga, and to all our viewers watching us from across the globe. Thank you. It is a pleasure to be back on this show.
All right, Doc, start the ball rolling for us this morning.
Thank you very much, Miriam. The topic this morning is very clear. The editor, the memo chooses to discuss judiciary. The judiciary in Kenya has become more of a civil society agent than the judicial agent. Judiciary in Kenya seems to be at war with the executive. Judiciary in Kenya seems to be not following the principle, the philosophy behind the notions of democracy, namely departments or compartments of democracy: executive, parliament, judiciary. The three work independently, but unfortunately, it looks like the Kenya works independently, not inter. The one in Kenya would like maybe even to grab power. If it was given a chance, it could grab power. The one in Kenya, if given a chance to fire the president, they will actually write and say, "We have fired you." The one in Kenya seems to have been infiltrated by several agents of NGOs, civil society, that dictates the nation. What made the judiciary to look for funding independently outside the government norms? Is it the government itself that created the monster that is killing every dream of every Kenyan? If you allow the treasury to go and get funding from Netherlands, working with organizations from Netherlands, from America, without the sanctioning of the government, without the proper channels. We work with the World Bank and we work with IMF, but we don't succumb to IMF regulations most of the time, or the World Bank. Has the Kenyan judiciary become a victim? Or has the Kenyan government become a victim of its wrongmaking? How did we allow the judiciary to be funded by internationalist organizations across Europe and America that dictate our where to be, how to be, when to be, what to do, and what not to do to be done? And why are we doing it? Those are the questions that linger in the minds of every Kenyan and every African listening to me. Across Africa, there is the same pattern that is going around, that most of the judiciaries are being used to actually undermine the government. South Africa, you saw the new Chief Justice who took over from the old one, said he's independent and gonna even jail some of these guys. And he knew it. He did not jail them in good faith, but he jailed them under envy. So has the judiciary in Africa, and especially in Kenya, become a civil society too. That is my editor's memo. But before we go further, let's look at one of the clips coming now. If you are ready, clip.
All right. Yes, the video is
George Soros. Does that name ring a bell? I'm sure it does. If you take interest in global trends, popular culture or geopolitics, you may have definitely come across this name. Let's put a face to it. This is the man we're talking about. He is George Soros, arguably one of the most controversial figures in the world. With as many supporters as detractors, there are reports celebrating his philanthropy, also those questioning his ideas about the world. For some people, Soros is a legend, a financial guru, one of the most successful investors of all time. Yet some believe he's a man of malicious influence, a billionaire who is able to move markets, someone who can sway politics and opinion. So who is the real Soros? And why is he such a polarizing figure? Hello and welcome to Gravitas Plus. I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay. Have you ever heard of Black Wednesday? It refers to an event in September 1992 when George Soros and a group of investors forced Britain to withdraw its pound from the European Exchange Rate Mechanism, ERM. In other words, they forced the pound out of existence. How is this done? Soros placed an enormous bet against the British pound. He said it would sink below the lowest currency exchange limit. More investors placed their bets assuming this would happen. Their actions put a lot of pressure on the pound. It sank further, ultimately pushing the United Kingdom out of the ERM. All of these investors made money, up to $300 million, but Soros was the winner, earning $1.5 billion in just 1 month. This score earned him legendary status and boosted his firm's wealth to $7 billion. They started calling him the man who broke the Bank of England. Today they call him a master manipulator of the global order, an unregulated billionaire with a messiah complex. Some say he can bring down not just currencies, but entire systems. Some accusations are indeed far-fetched, but they say there's no smoke without fire. So even if these are exaggerations, what are they based on? Let's look at how much this man is worth. Soros is among the 10 richest hedge fund managers in the world with an estimated worth of $8.6 billion. Some say he's worth way more than this, given the suspiciously enormous sums of money he gives away for charitable causes. He's donated more than $32 billion to a foundation he runs, out of which $15 billion have been distributed in 37 countries. What is this money being used for? For education programs, health camps, human rights movements, justice reform, global governance, and quote-unquote, the furtherance of democracy. How is this done? Through the Open Society Foundation, a name inspired from a 1945 book, The Open Society and Its Enemies. This body is headquartered in New York and has active programs in more than 60 countries. This group gives major grants to organizations and parties that are aligned with its mission and objectives, basically anybody who seeks to shake up the status quo. In Israel, the only democracy in West Asia, the list of grantees of the OSF include a number of Israeli NGOs that deny the legitimacy of Israel. In Palestine, OSF funds NGOs like the Al-Haq and Palestinian Center for Human Rights, both of which are associated with the Popular Front, an outfit designated as a terrorist organization by the US, the EU, Canada, and Israel. What would you call George Soros then? A political activist? Why not? In September 2012, he donated $1 million to a political action committee led by Barack Obama. In 2016, he was the biggest donor to the Hillary Clinton campaign, giving almost $8 million. The move was met with a lot of criticism. He also donated £400,000 to anti-Brexit groups opposing Britain's exit from the European Union, but favored Germany leaving the EU back in 2013. He's a man of convictions and contradictions. In June 2018, Hungary, which happens to be his native country, passed a law dedicated to this man. It's called the Stop Soros Law, aimed at ending OSF funding to organizations that support illegal entry of undocumented migrants. The OSF calls this law authoritarian. Hungary says it is only safeguarding national security. Now, here's the thing. Promoting and funding reform in a system is one thing, but undermining a nation's sovereignty by influencing decisions is quite another. George Soros and the OSF seek to liberate the world from ideas they consider outdated and restraining. They want to change political realities that are not suitable to their principles. Take their activism in India, for example. In January 2020, Soros unveiled a plan to set up a $1 billion fund to build a global network of higher educational institutions. Institutions that will help students put up a resistance against growing nationalism. He singled out several countries and their leaders. India was one of them. He called India a Hindu nationalist state, which is suffering the biggest and most frightening setback.
The biggest and most frightening setback occurred in India, where the democratically elected Narendra Modi created a Hindu nationalist state.
This was last year. This year, a scandal hit India, the Pegasus project. It suggested that the government of India was spying on its citizens. The report had a list of 300-odd Indians. Who was behind this project? 17 media organizations and 2 global entities, Amnesty International and Forbidden Stories. They're both beneficiaries of grants and funds from the Open Society Foundation. In 2018, Amnesty received a €137,000 grant from the OSF for a campaign to repeal a law Ireland had passed. In June 2021, just a month before the Pegasus report came out, Open Society Foundation named the former Secretary General of Amnesty as its Vice President for Global Affairs. Then we have Forbidden Stories. It has been proven to receive funds from the US State Department. And guess who do they feature as a supporter on their website? The Open Society Foundation. Here's something else that you must know. Sherpa, a French NGO, which is a persistent litigator in India's Rafale deal with France, has also been a recipient of indirect funds from the OSF through a third party. Simply put, a revolving door spins between these NGOs and the offices of George Soros. The same goes for media organizations involved in this project. The Media Research Center, an American media watchdog established in 1987, says 30 American news organizations have links to George Soros, and most of them were part of the Pegasus project. The project itself is under investigation in many countries. At some point, India too will have to specify its position on surveillance and clear the air on whether it uses softwares like Pegasus. In the meantime, can this nexus between news organizations and George Soros be ignored? Can these links be dismissed as a baseless conspiracy theory? I don't think so. A billionaire is using his power, influence, and yes, his money to make media networks shape narratives across countries and to go after establishments that don't match his vision of the world. Is Hungary, the birthplace of George Soros, the only European country that snoops on its citizens? It was the only one out of 44 European countries to feature in the Pegasus list. Where are Britain and Germany? Where is the United States, the biggest snooper of them all? Are we to believe no one is spied on in these countries? That said, Pegasus is just one piece of this puzzle. The Western media, in cahoots with organizations like Open Society, have had a long habit of cancelling the so-called third world countries, countries like India in particular. They see India as a metaphor for intolerance, orthodoxy, ignorance, poverty. Let me show you a few examples of this cancel culture. August 2019, when India revoked Article 370 in Kashmir, the New York Times said, bloodshed is all but certain. Note the confidence with which this assertion was made. It's been 2 years. What happened to their prophecy? The BBC, its terminology on Kashmir, IOK, Indian Occupied Kashmir. Would they call Northern Ireland British Occupied Ireland? Not in this lifetime. The trend is evident. India is seen through filters of bias. Reports based on conjecture indulge in fear-mongering. The idea is not to convey facts or developments. The idea is to validate and propagate prejudice. Why is that only certain points of view from India get featured in opinion pieces? Why are writers selected based on their position against the current dispensation? Why are only organizations with a certain leaning made part of global investigations? They accuse others of bias. What about their own? Look at this headline from 2013, when at least 24 American journalists were given positions in the Obama administration. This included the managing editor of the Time magazine, the national security editor of the Washington Post, a Los Angeles Times columnist, a reporter from the New York Times, a political producer from CNN, and many others, some of whom are also part of the Biden administration. It gets murkier as you dig deeper. There's certainly a nexus that operates to alter political realities the world over, a nexus that runs from the political corridors of liberal powers to the many offices of the Open Society Foundation across the world. And every time this nexus is called out, its ecosystems go on a one-sided rant devoid of facts. Here's wishing them a busy weekend.
Gravitas Plus, co-presented by...
Right, you're back at that video. So much. Doc, back to you before we bring in the panelists.
Thank you very much. Viewers, I think you have heard it yourself or for yourselves what it means to be a George Soros follower and a person who has been employed by George Soros. Viewers, you have seen and you have heard for yourselves who are the people in the world that George Soros can take on. If this is done at the highest level in the United States, what about the poorest level of Africa? The editor's memo finds that 3/4 of the judiciary in Africa is swallowed by George Soros. The Kenyan judiciary stands high, and it is one of the things that makes everything very difficult. I don't know whether you are seeing me.
Yes, Doc, we are seeing you and we're hearing you very loud and clear.
Yeah, It makes it very difficult then for a normal African country to operate. Why is it that a normal African country, always, President Uhuru Kenyatta has been trying, surely Nairobi, for example, yes, some people, I saw some commentators this morning, I watched from my online, and I saw commentators saying, condemning President Uhuru Kenyatta that, okay, he has not followed the constitution. But that is why he wanted to change the constitution. He wanted BBI to change the constitution. The constitution of Kenya does not give people, does not give the presidency the leeway to function. Look at Nairobi City, for example. Nairobi City was done, was gone. It was gone, it was finished. At least people in Nairobi have hospitals in a short time. Would you have waited for the constitution, Miriam, for cabbage to reach your bedroom? Would you have waited for constitution for the mud to reach your doorsteps? Would you have waited for constitution for sewage to burst? Do you wait for the constitution, therefore? If he doesn't do it, they blame him. If he does it, they still blame him. Because they have been poisoned by Ruto and other agents of the state who are against the state of Republic of Kenya. Look at the way things are. Things in this country work accordingly. Yes, like now we have fuel shortages. But you can even now avoid the car and walk to the train. My train is just a few minutes walk, and it is giving me an exercise to walk across and go in a train off. I am 25 minutes I'm in London. Actually 15 minutes to Victoria Station. Walk this afternoon, I will be in the Labour Conference in Brighton. Just about 1 hour away from here. As a member of the constituency, I will be around there amongst the top hierarchy, the former prime ministers. I will be in Brighton, and I don't know if I have a clip. I will go with my banner. I will give Miriam a Brighton approach this afternoon at 3 p.m. So these are some of the things. But there in Nairobi, when Uhuru Kenyatta stood up and said, let's clean the city, even that is condemned. He's condemned. If he refused, they said, Uhuru has refused to clean the city. Which way do we go? Judiciary itself, almost all 3/4 of Jubilee administration manifesto, Miriam was hammered under the judiciary. It was all killed, eaten from Justice Odunga up to today. Jubilee manifesto has not been fully implemented because the judiciary has stopped most of. You can imagine the judiciary had stopped the road. That road passing from Jomo Kenyatta Airport up to Westlands on the way to Naivasha to Uganda. The judiciary came in. You remember somebody filed and said, you don't pass it there. The judiciary went and blocked the SGR. You remember? Somebody went to the Judiciary and blocked the SGR. Now today we have judges enjoying Suswa, Naivasha. I saw most of the judges come the other time they didn't fly. All the judges went to Mombasa by train. But they stopped this train from being completed. Yet it cut out, they enjoyed, they went in one cabin, they were all, talking. Even you can sentence someone while you are in the cabin and you can read the sentence. Miriam, these are, under the panel, these are the achievements of the legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta. 3/4 of his legacy has been put under the hammer. They have killed it. Every morning you wake up with another ruling. You wake up with another determination. We are now facing a crisis that can be very dangerous. The editor's memo finds a crisis hovering over Kenya. Elections without reforms is like a war without guns. I like what Duale has said, that trusting Ruto is like trusting the wife of a coffin maker. Have you seen that? It is that if you want to trust Deputy President Ruto, you can as well trust the wife of a coffin maker when she tells you, my husband has a very good job. Because they will buy the coffin and put you in. And these are the things that you can see, that trusting the judiciary of Kenya, which has been an activist judiciary, we felt that Madam Kome will bring discipline. But my sisters and brothers watching me, that discipline has disappeared. Madam Kome seemed to have been swallowed into the amnesia of civil society systems that operate in the Kenyan judiciary. And therefore, submit that it is true, the judiciary, from the type of funding, the way tactics of funding. I think, Miriam, you have seen how Soros funds organizations. If you can fund I brought that to show you that if a man can bring down big countries on notes, what about a small country like Kenya or Uganda or Tanzania? It's a matter of $2 million and everybody runs amok. I submit.
Okay, thank you. Samuel Tawish.
Thank you so much, Miriam Gutu. Thank you, Dr. Masanga, for that submission. And I think, Miriam, when you listen to Dr. Masanga speak, and even the video that was played earlier on, indeed it's a pointer that there's a very big mess at our judiciary. And a judiciary which is more like a sellout, a judiciary which is no longer working for the interests of the people, a judiciary which does not want to complement government but fight it. This is very unfortunate in a young nation, in a democracy like Kenya. When you want or expect all the arms of government really to work together or to work in tandem so that they can achieve the common objective of service for the people who gave them the opportunity to work in those particular public offices. But Miriam, like you listened to Dr. Masanga, of course, the hand of external forces, and also listening to that video, highly and adversely mentioned is none other than the George Soros-led foundations, which have been disrupting regimes in the African continent, which have been working really through the civil society organizations to destabilize and bring down regimes. It is not lost to us, really, so many times that Kenya has gone through a lot of challenges, most of which have been occasioned by the judiciary. And sometimes you even ask yourself, you wonder, does the judiciary really live on planet Earth? Why do they act and sometimes make verdicts that are in sharp contrast with the aspiration and the interest of the people that they're supposed to actually serve. In itself, Miriam, it speaks volumes. It tells you clearly that these are people who are hell-bent in making it difficult for the government to live up to the promises and pledges it has made for the people. Dr. Masanga has given an example, for example, of the developmental projects, an instance of the SGR, the Standard Gauge Railway. You all understand the kind of litigations that the SGR project has seen or has gone through. So many of other infrastructures, including roads that President Uhuru Kenyatta is rolling out. You also understand about the laptop project and so many of such projects, Miriam. In itself, it tells you that this is a judiciary, or there are elements within the judiciary who are hell-bent in bringing down regimes. We thank God that this far, President Uhuru Kenyatta's Jubilee administration has managed to get this far, but it's not over yet. We have to still remain vigilant and on the watch out to ensure that the infiltration by the George Soros-funded civil society organization does not bring down this nation through the acts of commission or omission with the judiciary in Kenya. I submit, Miriam.
Thank you. Samuel Tawish. Daniel Wesonga.
Yes, thank you, Miriam Ogut. And of course, I was one of the few individuals who was actually quite optimistic with the rise of Martha Koome as the next Chief Justice after we had had a very, very rough and very acrimonious working conditions between the former Chief Justice, David Kenani Maraga, and the executive. But coming into office, it seems that the problems at the judiciary are institutionalized, in that the judiciary, the entire judiciary, is at the grasp of the international NGOs, the likes of the Open Society Foundations of George Soros, because it seems now even the Chief Justice is drifting towards wherever the majority of the judiciary staff and the judges are, that is the NGO. And we've seen so many of the judges actually making court rulings which actually reflect some activism in them. That shows you that the judiciary is no longer a tool for the people to get justice in this country, but a tool to advance external affairs and external interests of the people who have very little in regards to what is happening in Kenya. When you look at our constitution, for example, Miriam, the judiciary is perceived, and that is under the constitution, as an arm of government. And equally, the executive and the legislature, they are also perceived as other arms of government. So I believe just as like human body functions, every part should support each other so that we have a seamless working environment. But as it is in Kenya, judiciary has been the greatest impediment, even to the legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Dr. Masanga has just mentioned about very major projects, projects that would have seen the light of day, if not by the sabotage of the judiciary, by making rulings which are actually outrageous, rulings that actually deny these projects to take root. So it brings a backlog of very, very auspicious projects that will have turned around the lives of the people of Kenya. But because the judiciary is in the pocket of George Soros, that cannot happen. And that goes on at the detriment of the millions of Kenyans who will have benefited from these particular projects. And that forms the basis of my statement that these judges are not serving the interests of the Kenyan people, rather the interests of the external forces and external players like George Soros Open Society Foundation. I submit.
Thank you. Sharon Gitonga, what are your thoughts on judiciary?
Thank you very much, Miriam and my co-panelists, for your submissions. And I totally agree that this judiciary is the judicial system is a complete mess, and I think it's high time where we need to do an overhaul, of the system. I think from the judges, magistrates, trickling down all the way to the police service. And it's unfortunate that we live in a country where, the same judges that we are all banking our hopes on and expecting them to be neutral and, deliver justice are instead, blinded by bribes and, quote unquote, if I can call it, love to give freedom to lethal offenders. And convict innocent citizens. So if we can have, for me, I think it's high time where we can have an overhaul of the said judicial system, because it's no longer about the interest of the people, but instead their own interest. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Sharon, Doc is suggesting that we should have an overhaul. I don't know, the radical changes that we saw being introduced after former President Mwai Kibaki came to power seems to have just gone through the windows. So, I don't know, complete the show for us, Doc.
First of all, I agree with Sharon. There is a need for an overhaul. I agree with the panel from Tawish. You have seen what George Soros does. With Songa, you and I were on the same side on Kome. At the beginning, I told you I was not comfortable, but I was told it is okay. But I knew that she was going to drift into the same cocoon. I think if you see the type of anger that the judiciary currently in Kenya has against the president, one is left with no alternative but to suggest that if there was a chance of overhauling of revamping, there's a word that I wanted to use, which is stronger than overhauling and revamping of the judiciary. It cannot be streamlined anymore. It needs an overhaul engine. If the engine cannot move up the road, then you don't need to bring in spare parts, plugs, and so on in order for the car to run. It will run, but after a short time, it will stop again. The first is to overhaul the engine, put down the gasket, remove the body oil, and then place new gaskets, then make it run. I think the Kenyan judiciary needs that. We need to do that. If they don't do that, it is going to bring us more chaos even at the elections. Remember, they handled the presidential elections, petitions. They handled the petitions of the presidents in our elections. And we are heading to that moment where we are on a cliffhanger politics. In cliffhanger politics, you don't need more cliffhangers. you see, you don't need more cliffs. You know, Miriam, it is like that every morning you wake up in Kenya. I don't know how you see it, my sister, and Sharon, and Daniel. Every morning you wake up in Kenya, there is a cliff. So the government remains on a hanger. It's a cliff hanger. You know, a mere push can we fall into the other side. That is why it is called cliffhanger politics. Cliffhanger politics is dangerous, and that is where the country is now. When you look at the pandemic, the COVID-19, how it might come back to, to eat the population that are gathering for political rallies. At times, Medium, is it the society? Is it us ourselves? For me, for example, now I cannot. Let me tell you, yesterday I tried to go through the train. I went through the train after a long time. I went with my daughter for meetings. But let me tell you, the conditions in the train there, people are very careful. Nobody wants to come closer to you, Miriam. Here, people are coming closer when the disease is real. And everybody despite the fact that they have told people to remove the masks. So many people had masks. Despite they have said, no, it's okay now. 95% of you are, or 90% or 70% have been, but people still have the masks. People still have to tell you, no, 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 no. Cough nicely. So when but Miriam, when you look at this, and with the generation of politics that we are having now, with the type of rallies that we are going to hold, with the, and you know, if you bring it up now, Kenyans will tell you no. We rather die while voting. Someone would say, no, 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 don't cancel our election. Is it worth it to hold a public rally today? People are holding public meetings. Look at the labor conference. This afternoon I'm going, but I'm going to sit in another hotel and watch the events in the main theater, where we have decided as labor members who are editors of the party, myself, Baroness Catherine, Baroness Margaret Beckett, and others, we are going to sit and watch from another hotel from 3 p.m. as they give their speeches. It is because there is that mindset that this thing is wrong. But the judiciary in Kenya has increased the fear of our people. That it has created fear amongst the people that everything that Uhuru Kenyatta does is wrong. And believe me or not, if we are still around and God keeps us around, which I believe we shall pray and see, this will happen to whoever will become the president of the Republic of Kenya in 2022. He will be still haunted by the judiciary. The editor's memo finds the word overhaul, the word of the day. Our word of the day, Miriam, is overhaul. I don't know how many of you agree. Daniel, do you agree?
Yes, Dr. Matsanga, I absolutely agree with the word overhaul. We need to do an overhaul of the judiciary. And I don't know yesterday if you were able to watch an expose about the killing of the late Tom Cohen, which actually brought a lot of discussion yesterday night, that a judge was involved in some extramarital affairs with one of the one of the accused. So I think that is the kind of rot that we have in our judiciary, and therefore we need an overhaul.
I was there, and I was one of those guys who looked at my friend Kentai. I'm shocked. Yeah, but given the beauty of the woman, you cannot. The judge, no, I'm not. I know Miriam is gonna kill me over this, and Sharon. But given the beauty of the lady might have come in a very difficult circumstances. But surely, if you have been given a job and somebody has died, surely somebody has died. Just no. Miriam, there are certain things you can do. For example, you can do there are certain things you can do. Humanity has no necessity. Is it really necessary? to finish this man who was put in a, what is that the hole called?
Septic tank.
Septic tank. There are certain things, if you have stolen cash, yes, you can be tempted with cash medium. But death, a man has died. A human being has perished. A man who got his money, a millionaire who left with his money, why had one handy cash? We might have begun by selling flowers in Amsterdam. And collected his money, came and put you up. Made this woman so good. The woman was driving around in posh cars, making huge money investment. The woman turns around because he has seen a black suitor. The burden lies on you, ladies. I don't know whether to blame the judge or to blame the lady, but I leave it to Miriam and Sharon. The burden lies on you, whose husband was in a septic tank. When we come back tomorrow, that's why we need to discuss in weeks to come. We shall revamp our television. And we need such topical issues, Miriam. A topical issue like, how do you end up killing? Because these things are now, every morning you hear in Kenya, a man killed the family and shot himself. Am I wrong? There must be something which is not right in the society that we need to talk about Social Africa Corner. And I hope the production team is hearing. I want that template of Social Africa Corner, so that from next week I will start putting in my social topics with Sharon, Miriam, and others, topics that touch community. Because our television is a community. Don't worry about the numbers. Our television is the community. We are talking to the community. Miriam, the basis of why the Facebook allows you to be part and a parcel of this for years, 6 years, 7 years now, is it for the community to benefit. We keep the community. We must talk about social evils. What makes a man go and shoot 2 women, 5 of his children he produced, shoots the wife, then shoots himself? You might say money, but now where is the money? In Kerry. How do you call it money? This guy had more money than... Look at that. You have seen the sentence that they have given him. Life sentence. And that habit of a judge with a client, a woman putting a husband in a septic tank, and they run around to tell even the people who helped her, pay them money. Is it money that is the evil? I'm sure there were some people in the house who helped her to kill this man. And they are there, they are watching this trial. So, Miriam, I submit. Thank you very much. It's 1 minute past 12 here. I don't know, it is 2 minutes past 2 o'clock.
No, it's 1 minute past 12 here.
Yeah, it is sorry. Mine is 10 minutes past 10 minutes. 1 minute past, sorry. 1 minute past 10. I was reading from the laptop, which still has, I've not switched it off from Nairobi. I have remained with it so that I can have the time. 12:01 in Kenya, have your lunch. And unless there's a comment, Sharon, that you want to make.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Matsanga. And indeed, money is the root of all evil. But again, from the happenings, I think I have an issue with the DCI for, coming to a conclusive without extensive evidence. How do you first make conclusions and then you look for evidence? It's like a hyena, walking home backwards after, after having a prey and smelling bad, then they not to be eaten by the fellow hyena. So I also have an issue with the DCI for making conclusions before they did an extensive evidence.
I think I'll defend my friend Kinoti on this. He was frustrated by the court. You remember the applications that they made. The applications that they...
by the court and the DPP. I watched the piece last night and I thought the DCI did a good job with the investigations.
Yeah, they were frustrated by the court. The court frustrated the DCI. They did not want the case to come out. Kinoti did a great job. Kinoti found out, linked up forensically, how a person could disappear. And on earth, no trace, no car, no blood, no what. How? You see, if I become Korombo like a Wesonga, you better defend your title here. Mr. Korombo piecing pieces.
Yes.
If I piece pieces, a Sharon, a house is clean, no struggle, no turmoil, no things thrown apart. That the human being, before he died, he struggled. A story is manufactured. Where has he gone? No ticket, no departure, no suitcase packed. The DCI of Kenya did a great job. They produced evidence. They did not go to manufacture evidence, then come back. No, they produced evidence. Now, the frustration came from the judge who had already slept with the woman, who was an interested party, who knew. Actually, the judge is an alibi.
But the evidence, the forensic evidence, did it come from the DCI or from...
Yes. The forensic evidence, the trace, came from the DCI, a tip of that, no, this guy was around, he never traveled, he never went anywhere, the woman is lying, the same judge is seen with the woman. Even, even when a gatekeeper, that watchman, the watchmen who always guard our houses, Sharon, if you think they are stupid, they are not stupid. They are stupid when you are still all right. But when trouble comes and the CID comes on their door, on them to ask questions, believe me or not, they will give a clue that will lead to Colombo man to go and say, oh, for example, the killing of Kimani, the lady Kimani, what is...
Monica.
Yes, Monica Kimani. You see the gate, the askaris at the gate. The soldiers manning the gate are the ones who gave a clue that this one came at this time, another man came and left, but this one came back. And then these two came back. At the journalist's home. You can see that, then they pieced that together. So the watchman also gave a clue, said the boss has not traveled. He never moved out of the house. When they asked him what was the last time he moved out of the house, then they went back to find the dates that the woman gave, that he flew out with the dates that he last moved out of the house did not corroborate. There was no corroboration. So they came up with a very serious situation. And that is exactly what has happened. So you see, the evidence is on this one. The DCI did a great find out that job was excellent, but the court now joined the hands. The court became a prosecutor. The judge became a prosecutor, siding with the defense, almost killing the case. Mm-hmm. But now, with the exposed, that's why media is very crucial. When the policy was done, things seem to be coming back. So this one is not the DCI. They never went to look for evidence anywhere. They got the evidence, but the judges, Sharon, frustrated the DCI. If you follow the proceedings, there was a very big, row between the DPP and the thing, the DPP and the DCI over this case. Even coming, it almost became personal. Yeah, because of the judge. But right now, the prosecution has found out, which is the DPP, that the DCI was correct. There is no other motive. The man did not have anybody's money. He didn't. Or a date, or somebody chasing him. But he had a murderer who is in the name of the wife, who was in the house, who wanted the riches, who spoiled the name of the people, of some ladies in Kenya, and makes some people lose market. You know very well. There's that saying, at that time you saw, when these people saw the septic tank, medium, everybody say, go slow. Go slow. Unaweza nyongwa usiku. So some people, especially we see people who are elderly, who sleep fast. When you get such patterns, if you ever happen to become mischievous, you must look your everything very far. With song, I don't know what you say. But even nowadays, even younger partners are doing it, Miriam. Sharon, they are killing people. Especially the younger, there is a ring somewhere someone was telling me this on a plane, that they come like 6. They know themselves. They visit the man's home, and then at night they call the people who are going to come. They will open. She will be the one to open, claiming there are people here who have come to kill us, but they will not kill her. So be careful of a stranger that you invite to your house. Could turn up to be the septic tank. Yes, Miriam.
All right. Okay.
Wesonga had something. Anything you want to add?
Yes, I think, Dr. Masanga, I agree in totality with whatever you are talking about. That is the reality of the matter. In as much as we could try to deny and move ourselves further from it, but that is what is out there. I think I agree with you so in totality. So I have nothing to add on that.
Thank you very much. All the way from Europe. Thank you very much, Miriam, in the studios. I look forward to watching your show at 3 p.m. on a train, because I will be in a train going that is at 1 o'clock. I will start moving towards the train station that will take me to Brighton, 1 hour away from here, where I am, in Surrey, where the meeting is taking place near the sea. I want to thank you very much. The weather here is very cold, and we shall make it again tomorrow.
Okay, thank you so much.
Remember, the same time, Miriam, remind me of the topics. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Doc, from London. Thank you, Samuel Tawish, Daniel Wesonga, and Sharon Gitonga. I'll see you later with more news from Africa at 3 p.m. East African time. Don't miss it on Diaspora Dispatches. My name is Miriam Ogutu. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.